So how are you going to operate with less, even though we didn't even have enough to begin with?
Well, it depends on what the priorities are from the past administration, but in this
Are
administration,
inspections not priorities?
they are priorities to protect the
But with
American
less
worker.
inspectors, you can't do
What
investigations.
we don't want to do is weaponize the use of those funding dollars.
Did you catch that? This is exactly what happens when political theater collides with real governance. Representative Ilhan Omar threw everything she had at Secretary Lori Chavez-Darima: dramatic statistics, constant interruptions, and deliberate attempts to twist her words. But watch how the secretary responds. What you're seeing is a masterclass in staying calm under pressure while facing aggressive, gotcha-style questioning. Stick around as we break down exactly why Omar's narrative about OSHA cuts completely unravels once the actual facts are laid out.
And watching the hearing earlier, I learned that you're also a former union member.
Well, my father was a Teamster.
Ah,
Yes.
okay. All right. I'm a former AFSCME member. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the child labor enforcement. In two appropriations hearings last month, you expressed a firm commitment to fighting illegal child labor. At the same time, your agency has decimated ILAP, including its work to prevent child labor. Your budget proposal will weaken a historically under-resourced wage and hour division. The nominee to be your solicitor of labor wrote a chapter in Project 2025, which literally calls for the rolling back of child labor laws. Madam Secretary, can you assure this committee that you will not propose any rollbacks of child labor rules that prevent children from being employed in hazardous occupations?
I commit to fighting against all child labor exploitation. Absolutely, in this country, we do not want to exploit our children. Consistent with putting the American worker first, the budget does streamline ILAB, that is one of the agency departments that protect the American worker and protect against child labor violations. The budget provides for about $70 million to ILAB, including $38 million in grant funding, while restoring ILAB's emphasis on putting the American worker first.
So that's a long way of you saying yes?
I will work absolutely to combat all child labor.
Wonderful. Many workers across the country will feel the impacts of your staffing and funding cuts to WHD and OSHA. As of May 2025, WHD employs just 611 investigators nationwide. This is the lowest number since at least 1973, even though there are nearly 10 times as many workers and businesses for them to cover. Your budget proposal cutting the office by $25 million, with staffing projected to fall. Your budget would also cut OSHA inspectors by over 12%, even though currently it will take 185 years to inspect every workplace just once. Madam Secretary, what is the plan to keep workers safe when you're slashing enforcement?
Yeah, no, thank you again. Again, one of the overall core missions is to protect the American worker, and that includes in the wage and hour division as well. And while we are streamlining and doing some cost saving for the American taxpayer, we will always be in compliance with our statutory requirements.
Well, that doesn't, Madam Secretary, if I can just interrupt for 1 second. At one point, DOJ was set to close 20 WHD field offices and 11 OSHA offices. If this is happening, how will this protect workers?
So the offices that we have been, that were originally proposed through GSA, we have worked with to bring them online. I don't think that is a good use of the compliance issue, that we have to protect the American worker. And through the DRP, none of our essential workers, either through wage and hour, through OSHA, through MSHA, were able to take those because we know we need those investigators on the ground to protect the American worker, and I advocated for that.
Yeah, but having fewer investigators and inspectors will not protect workers from wage theft, misclassification, and dangerous working conditions. So how are you going to operate with less, even though we didn't even have enough to begin with?
Well, it depends on what the priorities are from the past administration, but in this
Are
administration,
inspections not priorities?
they are priorities to protect the
But with
American
less
worker.
inspectors, you can't do
What we
investigations.
don't want to do is weaponize the use of those funding dollars against.
How is there weaponization if it's going to take you 187 years to complete inspections and you are cutting the inspectors that are supposed to do those inspections? The math is not mathing.
Well, statutorily, we will protect the American worker. We did not have any of our investigators currently. We're not able to take the DRP in order so that they can be assigned to the job that they are required
So
to do.
are you saying that you're going to hire more investigators to do inspections?
What I'm saying is we did not allow our statutorily mandated offices that we need essential workers like our investigators through wage and hour, through MSHA, and through OSHA to take the DRP because they are essential to protecting the American worker in these industries. We can still cost save and do the job that we need to do.
So American workers can expect that you will expedite investigations to make sure that we are assuring their safety.
American workers can expect that the Department of Labor will protect the American worker as that is a core mission of the Department of Labor.
All right, welcome back. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's start with the tone right out of the gate. Ilhan Omar comes in hot aggressive from the start. She opens with the former union member angle, which feels less like a moment of connection and more like a setup. But Secretary Lori Chavez de Rima doesn't take the bait. She stays calm, professional, and focused. Then we get to the child labor line of questioning. Omar brings up Project 2025, the left's latest political boogeyman, and tries to tie the secretary to it. She frames the question as, "Will you protect children?" It's loaded from the start. When Chavez de Rima gives a detailed, nuanced response about streamlining budgets to better serve American workers, Omar cuts her off with a snarky, "So that's a long way of you saying yes." That moment says everything. This wasn't about getting an answer, it was about getting a sound bite. The secretary was explaining a simple reality: you don't fix problems by blindly throwing millions of dollars at a bloated bureaucracy. You fix them by making government more efficient. But Omar doesn't want to talk about efficiency. She wants the headline that Republicans are gutting agencies. Now let's talk about that dramatic statistic Omar tossed out, that it would take 185 years to inspect every workplace, and that we're at the lowest number of investigators since 1973. Sounds terrifying, right? Until you look at the bigger picture. We're drowning in national debt. The Department of Labor has been bloated for years. Chavez de Rima's point one she tried to make politely before being interrupted was that streamlining matters. The idea that we need an army of federal agents inspecting every business in America is exactly the kind of big government overreach that hurts workers and the economy alike. Omar acts as if workers are only safe if there's a federal agent standing in every shop. That's simply not true. Businesses already have strong incentives to keep workers safe. Lawsuits, lost productivity, and reputational damage are expensive. Then came the most important moment of the entire exchange. The secretary said, "What we don't want to do is weaponize the use of those funding dollars." Boom. That's the key line. Omar seemed genuinely confused and asked, "How is that weaponization?" Here's how: when you give an agency unlimited funding and an army of bureaucrats, it becomes easy to target industries or businesses based on political preferences. You regulate them into the ground. Chavez de Rima was making it clear she's protecting taxpayers and small business owners from an overreaching administrative state. Her message was simple and powerful: we can protect workers without turning the Department of Labor into a political weapon against job creators. Omar tried to paint a dystopian future: children in mines, unsafe workplaces, all because of budget reforms. That's fear-mongering, plain and simple. Secretary Chavez de Rima stood her ground, defended fiscal responsibility, and proved that worker safety and smart budgeting are not mutually exclusive. Omar wanted a villain for a viral clip. Instead, she got a leader who understands how governance actually works. Let me know in the comments, do we need more federal inspectors, or do we need smarter government?